Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Raising Our Gifted Children. I'm your host, Sara Troy, and all the way from the UK today is my guest, Sally Saint. And I'm sorry, I have to do it. I'm brought up in the 60s and 70s. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It's been ringing in my ears as I've been doing your posting. So and just maybe she is a saint because she works with children, and anybody who works with children has got to have some sort of saint quality. And today we're going to be talking about that transition from home to school, because yes, it's back to school, folks, and it's how to get kids back into that system and that routine. And whether it's now here in September or at any time, from home to school is a different demographic, it's a different mindset, it's a different organization of what's going on in the home. And at any time, even if it's the weekends, a Monday going back to school, this is good information to have and good practices we're going to learn today of how to get your kids out of the it's a party mode back into let's get studious. And also today's education, where are we missing out? What are the things that we really need to be addressing? Because when I say gifted children, I mean it. We're looking more and more today at children, mind-blowingly gifted, intuitive, instinctual, creative, so much more than we've ever seen in the past. Is it because of the internet? Is it because there's permission to be? Is it because the elevation of frequency and vibration that's running through? I don't know. I think it's a combination of everything, but we cannot try and box these children into the same old system, a system that is outdated and archaic. We need to embrace who they are, what they are. Remember, we're their custodians. We don't own them. They're not our property. We're here to love, nurture, guide, and share with them so that they can be all that they're meant to be. Now, this is Sally's field. She's worked with children for a long time, and we're going to dive more into what she does, what we need to do, and what collectively, as a global society, that we need to do in embracing our children who are our future leaders. If you take a look at some past leaders right now, we know the education failed us. So let's look at how we raise the future children so we don't have to go down that same spiral. Welcome to the show, Sally.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Sarah. It's an absolute pleasure. What a lovely build up as well. Beautiful, everything that you said. Lovely.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm about to interview next week the vegan kid who's 12 years of age, has already written 2 books and is a public speaker. I've interviewed kids who are 9, already had a book. Kids that are activists at 10. We're seeing all the time these children that are, we've got these talent shows up here and little kids. There was one kid at the age of 6 singing Frank Sinatra, Doing It My Way. And she was phenomenal. Yeah. We have such gifted kids out there right now. What do you contribute that to being?
Because they're needed very much so. So there are lights, and that's an understatement. Light workers are being activated everywhere. That's adults, but the children are already there. They're already light. So they're coming through because the world needs it. Yeah. And us as parents need to be the gatekeepers, the caregivers, yes, but we understand who these children are. We have to understand and recognize and respect who they are, so as they can then go out into the world and make the difference they're meant to. So we have a very important role to play. But these children are coming because they're meant to come, and they're coming very strong, but with a gentility as well. Yes. So the gift will not be suppressed. It's not meant to be. But also they've got a hugely sensitive side. Yes. And so honor it. It is what the world needs.
what we need, there are
Mm,
teachers right now. I'm just going to ask you just to move
totally.
your mic down a wee bit, just to below
Yeah.
your chin. There you go.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. And we see your pretty face. I think the children, just as much we're their custodians and teachers, etc. In one aspect, they're here to teach us. They are an incredible example of what humanity can be.
Yeah.
And how not only gifted in what we do, but in how we come together as human beings for one another. And
Yes.
so they are very, very much our tutors at the moment, aren't they?
Totally, they are, and that is exactly what they're meant to be. They are our teachers. Let go of the idea of we're meant to be teaching them. We're not.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
We're not at all.
Yeah.
It is. It's their role. They're teachers. They are teachers. What we think we would teach them, and that's the same for teachers in the school, is nothing to compare what they're going to teach us.
No.
Nothing.
I know that my kids' favorite teachers were those that tapped into the children.
Yeah.
And they were there to then bring a little structure and understanding of what these kids were thinking or what they were feeling. And they loved those teachers because they had permission to explore. They had
Yeah.
permission to articulate a thought, and nothing was shut down. And it was like, okay, that's a great idea. What can you do about it? How can you build this? Where can it go? And then brought some structure, some building blocks to it. And that's really what we're looking at is a partnership between child and teacher, aren't we? Or parent, because it's only in that synergy that we're really going to help them grow to be what they need to be.
Absolutely. Energetically, children know when they are respected.
Yeah.
So that, you can be human. So energetically, if you're open to them and you respect them, you can have that humanness and not faults, but but they completely understand if you are on their wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
They love it.
Mm-hmm.
They love it. And so they feel. And that's what they're in touch with as well. We as adults have to learn to open and access that area again of feeling, of sensing someone's energy. The kids know. They know. My child has a couple, and they are a couple, but he's met them separately, and he cannot be around them. He hides behind me. And
really?
he doesn't know they're a couple, but there's something he senses. And that's just one area of it. But these children can feel, and you can see. I'm very blessed to be working in an independent school, so I'm around gifted children an awful lot, and I see the way that, especially when new children come in, they open up very quickly because they know they're respected, and that is a simple fact. Simple, and they feel.
We've got to stop just addressing from the shoulders up.
Yes.
We know that there is a measurable intelligence in the heart and in the soul.
Yeah.
And the spirit needs to be free to express that intelligence, that heart-centered. If we come at children from a feeling aspect, feel the knowledge, understand what this feeling means, what this knowledge can do. We're now opening up so much more to the creative process of possibilities. If we just stay in the head, we're more likely to talk ourselves out of something than in something, because we're missing these massive ingredients of heart, soul, and spirit intellect.
Totally. And that balance, that balance needs to be brought in. And this is why these kids have got the sensitivity, is because, again, they're reminding us of this energy, that subtlety. Subtlety is so important. There's head everywhere. We need the balance.
Yeah. Yes. Whether you're a kid or not, we all seek that balance. If we're out of equilibrium, it affects not only our psyche, but our performance, but it affects our health. It affects our very well-being. So what we are always looking for, the teeter-totter, the seesaw, is always going to be going back and forth, back and forth. It's like, the forever game of ping pong or tennis, the ball being served, hit back, and that we constantly look for that momentum, that balance, but we don't want to go off kilter.
No.
Because then, we're thrown out of that sequence. It's how do we get back to it? And I feel if we just operate from the head, from intelligence without wisdom to know what the intelligence is, we're throwing ourselves off kilter all the time.
Absolutely. But if the childhood is nurtured, the core is strong.
Yeah.
So the core of being. So these little tweaks won't matter.
No,
Just, it's just
they'll learn
about,
how to
yeah,
get back on their feet, you know, and how to get back
absolutely.
into their balance. So that's the important thing. Yeah.
It'll be a ripple on a lake
Mm.
rather than a tidal wave.
And don't we kind of bring the tidal wave because we don't know what to do and we panic and the kids go, well, what's up?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's our heads going ba ba
Yes.
ba ba ba. They're
Yeah.
calm, looking at us. What is the big deal?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But on the other hand, we're seeing so many children more traumatized for a
Yes.
few reasons. One, obviously, abuse going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Um, I would say even the abuse of not embracing their gifts, their
Totally.
psyche gifts, and
Totally.
ostracizing them or belittling them or making them feel less because they don't fit in the box. And that
Yes.
pressure can come from parents, it comes from teachers, it comes from society. Oh, they're different, so therefore they must be off. So
Yeah.
therefore, this, you know, we're going to treat them differently
Mhm.
instead of saying what a beautiful gift they are. What can we learn from them? There is the
Absolutely.
ostracization. So we also
Totally.
throw our kids into a lot of stress because of that expectation, don't we?
Totally. And there's more and more diagnoses of, so there used to be there was the Asperger's autistic
Yeah,
spectrum. Now there's so many different diagnoses,
yeah,
and a diagnosis may get you extra help in a school or funding or whatever, but ultimately don't let it be a box. And so
right.
whatever it is, honor the child for the gifts they have, because by
Yes,
heck have they got gifts as well.
yes,
So see beyond it, don't let it
mm,
constrict. And
yeah,
I'm seeing that the more and more, that people get focused on the diagnoses, but then
yes.
they get lost in the diagnoses somehow, you know.
Yeah, and
Honor.
that's yeah. I mean, it's the label. Therefore, you must
Yes.
be, and it's like, well, you know, and it's like if I go to a doctor, I want to find out what they, you know, the tests come back, and now it's like, well, this is something I seem to have, but it doesn't define who I am. I'm now
No.
going to look for ways to deal with it that, you know, that are non-pharmaceutical. And I think what we're looking at today is, oh, your child is hyperactive, ADHD or Asperger's or this, there's a pill for that. And I think we've
Mm.
got to stop looking for the quick fix pill for everything and understand that this child is just operating on a different level, and that if we actually enter their world, their level, we will actually comprehend not only how they're thinking, but we will learn something from it as well.
Absolutely. Don't own the diagnosis. So
Right.
when you're given that word, it is just a word.
Yeah.
Step beyond it.
Yes.
And enter into the world of your child and honor it.
Yes. But you said enter into the world of your child. I think half the problems come from is that expectation that they must be in our world to function. Please take a look to your left and the past and look at what
Yeah,
a dysfunctional society we have become
absolutely.
because we stepped into some you know, educational or expectational box. And now when we're looking at the people that refuse to be in the box, that have stepped into their gifts, that, you
Mm.
know, are free to explore who they are, what they are, why they're here to do it, with the nurturing and construction of those that believe in them, we are now seeing greater heights than we ever have before.
Totally, totally. I agree. And it's in the UK in the past 10 years, antidepressants diagnosed to teens has gone up by 50%.
Oh, that's
But
ridiculous.
it's just even the medication they're saying has got so many issues, and we all know
Oh,
that.
yes,
But,
yes.
but is it not true that just the children are sensitive beings? They don't need to
Yeah.
have these drugs put in them. Honor who they are. There shouldn't be a wave of medication coming
No.
at them. There
Yeah.
should be acknowledgement of the gifted kids that are coming. Do not dampen them down.
Right.
Honor who
Love
they
them,
are.
honor them. But I will go over to diet.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
of course, if your children are hyperactive, you know, they may not be HDAD, they just may be on a constant sugar high from all the sugar that you're giving them, the fructose, the sugar, the everything else in everything that you're feeding them. Because just about everything, especially any form of fast food, packaged food, or anything, has sugar content. And we
Totally.
see more, you know, physical diabetes and more you know, weight issues, more children with some hyperactivity, and everybody's quick to diagnose they have this and that, but why are we not looking at root cause? And sometimes it simply is two things: one, diet, The other is that they are children who are really wishing to express themselves in a different way and haven't been given permission or shown how.
Totally. And the saying, the body is a temple, is correct.
Yes.
So, a child whose energy is in touch with their energy wouldn't want to eat the crappy food, to be fair.
Right.
They're being fed it by people who may not be open or understanding what's going on, or possibly they don't feel great about themselves. So why
Yeah.
else would you put rubbish food
Right.
in yourself? If you honor your body, you're
Yes.
more mindful of what's
Yes.
going in. And fast food is not, again, it looks like a quick fix. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's not. And
Junk shop.
Exactly. And as we mature as adults, we start to understand that we really do need to take care of our bodies.
Yes. Yes.
And that's part of it. And our children follow us. So as they're, 1, 2, 3, they're not the ones going to the supermarket and buying stuff. We are.
No. And I mean, like this vegan kid I'm going to be interviewing has been vegan from the moment he was born. The kid I interviewed on GMO, right from the word go, anything that, had GMO in it, natural foods, been brought up on the carrots and things. I've known kids that have been brought on all greens. The thing is if you bring them up with all that healthy stuff, they're not going to fight you. They're going to want this healthy stuff. They like the way they feel. They look at all these other kids that are being dumbed down by some sort of Ritalin pill or this or that because of hyperactivity, or, struggling at gym because of, and they know as they grow that they're healthier, and not only the brain is activated, everything is activated through good nutrition. So I think what we miss a great deal in the manual of parenting is that allow your child to be who they are meant to be, nurture, water, seed, guide, but also feed literally the nutrients that they need in order to be all they're meant to be. Otherwise, we're just feeding our children a disease for the future.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. When I was 16, I developed ME, which is myalgia and encephalomyelitis. And part of my recovery was I had food intolerances, but I learned so much about food because of it.
Right.
I grew up on a dairy farm, so there was, there's cow's milk, a lot of meat. But via this illness and my recovery of it, I learned so much about food that I moved forward with that completely, and harnessing the energy and the healing of food as well. Your energy feels different. You feel lighter when you're feeding your body with these things.
Right.
And you're gifting yourself.
Yes.
When you give yourself loving food. Healthy food, alive food.
Yes.
And I mean energetically alive.
Yes, yes.
A lot of it is dead.
And of course, when we are looking at things like, the vegetables and the fruits and things like this, I'm not talking about the gummy bears, with sugar in there. I'm talking about real fruit and real vegetables, which in many, many diets. Now, I was brought up in the 50s, so, we ate stacks of vegetables, and it was, going off to the farmer's market and everybody be selling their wares, or we had people that came round to the door selling to us. And so I was very lucky to grow up in that generation where it was still very, very much, about their vegetables, meat and potatoes as well, but lots of veggies. And then I don't know when it started happening that we started going to the packaged food and the fast food, and things like anything green would disappear. What we don't understand about the green is the antioxidants, the energy in the food, the brain food that is there.
Totally.
And it's huge that, we go, I don't know why my kid isn't learning properly. Well, is it because they have to learn in a different way than they're being taught? Or is it going to their diet? Or is it another factor? Is there stress in the home between the parents or the other siblings that's causing these kids to kind of shut down and retreat? Because all of this is a factor, isn't it?
Absolutely. And people need to and wake up to the fact that a lot of junk food has got chemicals in which actually you get addicted to.
Yes.
So it's that addictive thing to element to it as well. So we've bought into many illusions, haven't we?
Yes.
But the simple thing, I'm going blackberry picking with my son, and we're getting hazelnuts from the trees as well. So you can start that reconnection in a very simple way. So as they understand where food comes from, how it's real, and tasting it fresh. So these, like right now in the UK, it's a lovely time of year to get kids out and see, and just pull something off a bush. And this
Right.
is where it comes from.
Yes. And then also when you're preparing a meal, do it together. Age
Totally.
appropriate, whether it's just the setting of the table or, maybe cutting up some vegetables but when they come in at the kitchen together, not only do they learn how to put a meal together, they appreciate what they've helped prepare.
Yeah.
Right? And it's also now family time around that table where it's a time that they can really converse because
Yeah.
it's over good food. They feel a participant of it. They're grateful for it. And now it's open to conversation. Our tables at night were always a round table. And that round table was always about converse. Nothing was taboo. And of course,
Yeah.
you responded to it accordingly to the
Yeah.
age, but nothing was taboo. And we always had extra kids at the table.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing, is allowing our kids to have a voice. This whole thing about children should be seen and not heard it belongs to the dark ages.
Yes,
But
it does absolutely. Because these children have got a lot to say, but they've got a lot of wisdom, in
yes,
amongst, So,
yes.
allow, because it's so enlightening being around them. It's
It
wonderful.
is mind-blowing, isn't it, what they come. I
Yeah.
remember my 7-year-old son at the time he was 7, he's saying, I know I don't know everything. I know I've got so much more to learn, and a 7-year-old
Mm.
realizing that they still have so much more to learn, where, most children are just plowing through life. And it's wonderful to see them being hungry for knowledge, but not just for knowledge's sake,
No.
to know what to do with the knowledge. And I think that's what we're seeing a difference in our kids today, isn't it?
Absolutely, and they're really taking on board things as well. So this is not the mediocre things. Again, I work and volunteer at the school, so I'm seeing these children. Their thirst
Mm,
for real knowledge. Then they bring their own, but also they love to take on board the
yes.
deep things, and they'll have real conversations, and that's of all the ages. The conversations they'll have with you is just it's just wonderful to see this journey and that glow and the look in their eyes, that
Mm,
brightness when they're it's just they love to take on board. They love to learn, and that's something, again, adults, when did we stop thinking we don't need to learn?
yeah.
It lightens up your whole,
Mm,
and you continue to expand because you want to keep learning. So learn from these children and think, okay, I don't know it all, because sure as heck we don't. Keep on learning and keep on growing. Children understand the
yes.
growth. Learn, grow. They understand it.
The other thing is I find very interesting is there's so many adults that I've met that have their degrees, BB, DD, DD, DD goes on forever. And
Yes.
and then someone comes along to change the understanding of what they know, because
Yeah.
a new scientific find has happened, a new realization. So everything that they learned now is in question
Mhm.
because of a new find. But there are complete refusal to accept any new information, because all of a sudden it becomes an affront on their intelligence, which has got nothing to do with it. It's just that you learnt this knowledge based on what was in front of you. Now there are new facts. And true intelligence is being able to adapt, isn't it? And go, oh, everything I knew was wrong. It is now this. Aren't you hungry to know what this is? Instead of
Abs-
protecting the old knowledge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And see these children and see how they
Yes,
exactly adapt, because they're
yes,
growing. They
yeah,
can adapt. It's us
yeah,
adults.
yeah,
When my child has a growth spurt, and they have a physical growth spurt, but internal one as well, he'll just go bam from one day to the next, and I'm there thinking, okay, I need to catch up. And that's the great thing, because you are continually on that cycle. So that's
yes,
what makes it wonderful, and just allow that growing.
yeah,
Um, we as parents may have a favorite age when we all like picture our child at whatever age, but just allow them to keep on growing, because it's a magical journey no matter what
yeah.
age they are. And so embrace every single one.
I'm going to
Every
throw a
single
tip
one.
in right now for
Okay.
the physical growth spurts. If
Yes.
you measure your children from the tip of the pointy finger to the tip of the pointy finger, arm's length, and then measure the height they are at that time. If the arm's length from tip to tip is longer than the height, that's their next growth spurt. So
Wow.
when you're buying clothes, bear in mind that they're about to grow that extra inch or 2 inch, whatever that span is.
I
So
did.
No, I
Where
learned
did
that
you?
from a seamstress.
Ah, I wonder where you got it from.
And yeah, and she taught home ec sewing, and I applied it to my children because you go and buy them a wardrobe, and the next thing you know, 2 minutes later they've outgrown it. Well, if
Yeah.
you know the tip to tip, they're about to go into a growth spurt. I'm going to buy everything an inch too long. Then matter of seconds they're going to actually get into it. So just a little tip there, folks.
It's amazing where inspiration comes from, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah,
And we know that they grow like weeds. They do.
they do.
But just like weeds too, so is their curiosity. And it worries me if their curiosity isn't there. If they're not inquiring, if they've dumbed themselves down, or they got stuck on video games. Now, my son played video games, and he said that it taught him brilliant eye-hand coordination, which made him a better driver, made him faster, quicker to response, with that eye-hand coordination, which, everything has a benefit. But I think what we have to look at with anything in life is excess. I mean, going back to balance again, you can't overdo one thing. They must have a variety in their lives.
Absolutely, and also if they are excessive in something, what are they hiding? Because they're
Mm,
hiding behind it as well.
mhm.
So I would be aware of that. And any of the dumbing down, just if the curiosity or the spark has gone from your child, then just have a look as to what is going on. If they're not vocalizing,
Yeah,
then do your best just to find out what is. Inquire at school, inquire whatever, and then give the space so as your child can actually then vocalize with you. But I would just be mindful there's some reason. And yes, like you say, the video games, everything in balance, and you
yeah.
teach them balance. As parents, we're meant to have healthy boundaries. We teach
Hmm.
them healthy boundaries. We show them healthy boundaries as well. It is all well and good if we limit our children on something. We need to be mindful of what we're doing in ourselves as well.
Right.
Social media is massive, and it's a
Yes.
wonderful thing. We're accessing via
Hmm.
the computer. So it has, but then the social media networks. They have become a massive part of people's lives. You go out now, how many times do you see someone actually eye to eye? They're on their phones.
I know. I don't understand it.
So we cannot say to our children one thing and be acting on another.
Right.
We have to, and also our learning how to handle the social media side means we can pass it on to them as well. So we're almost the ones that learn the healthy balance to pass on to these children. But
Right.
we also have to mirror what we're asking a child. We cannot say
Mm.
one thing and do another.
Right. The moderation, we say everything in
Yeah,
moderation, and it's like,
absolutely.
yes, be on social media. That is your future. We're not going to take
Mm,
that away from anybody,
yeah,
because we couldn't if we wanted to. But it is again of the healthy balance of, you're only going to spend an hour on social media a day, um,
yes,
and on TV it's only going to be this or that. The
yeah.
balance with the homework, the same thing. The
Hmm.
same with the activities with family. This is conversation
Yes,
time. You know,
yeah,
this is friends time. And yes,
yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to be rigid on it, but you can be flexible. But you've got to make sure that you constantly try and steer the ship into balance, because you don't want it toppling over, and it's so easy to do. And I think the reason when we see so many kids sitting at a table texting each other instead of actually lifting up their heads and talking
Mm.
is that they feel maybe they're more heard through texting. Have we lost the art of conversation with our kids, or have
Yes,
they?
but also if you can see it from the child's point of view, if you had adults talking over you or not listening to you, what
Mm,
would you do? You'd
right.
go to the best channel you could to be heard.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it is us that is dumbing them down. They are not
Yeah.
dumbed down, but if we are continually over their heads, they will
Right.
find another way because they need to, otherwise they will lose what they've got. So they're finding the only thing they can. So come to access them and look in their eyes.
Right, exactly. Now I want to go back to like, we are going back to school. If we're seeing some reluctance from kids, maybe it's just the end of summer and they loved summer and, don't want to go back to dreary school. Or maybe it's something's going on at school
Yeah.
that, they don't want to go back to. And I've interviewed people, and funny enough, more men than women, who've talked about being raped as a child. And then one guy at the age of 6 told his dad what happened. And his dad said, well, go and show him what's what, and just basically bullied him back, and not sexually, but just gave no credibility to the kid, and just, that's your fight, go and sort it out. He's 6, and it's like, where are the parenting things there? So he felt let down and bullied from all aspects of it. And I think one thing we have to actually understand is that bullying takes on so many different layers. It's intimidation, and it could be one-on-one, it could be group-on-one, it could be innuendo, it could be just, sniggering. It takes on so many different ways. And how do we empower our children against the bully?
Absolutely. The first thing we do is listen, and listen to every single emotion and feeling they want to say. Also, if you can, stay neutral in your and how you take it on, because if you react to what they're saying, that can stop them from. So if you can, stay really calm and centered, and just feel like you're sending love from your heart when they're talking, so then they can fully open up. Fully expressing what's going on is one of the most empowering things they can do, and they can only do that when you're not going to react to it, because they will try and protect you if they have got a strong bond to you, or if they feel you're going to get angry, then that's another. So you've got the two things. Absolutely. So stay loving and let them open up completely, and then between the two of you, with that opening, you can discuss how you're going to do it. So do not railroad in with, I'm going to do this and this and this. Talk, listen to your child, and come up with a plan together as to how you're going to do this. And then you're 100% behind it, and it's a 50-50 thing of drawing this up. This is obviously age related, because it depends on the age of the child as well. But so that will depend how much more you would need to do. But it is so important that you listen, and then you get that school on board as well. But the first part is always to listen fully to that child, and do not get caught up into overreacting on either way when they are saying. You have to stay grounded.
The thing is that validity, that the way they're feeling, they're entitled to feel that way. Don't take that away from them. If they're feeling threatened or in pain, or fearful in any way, we cannot dumb that down, or we cannot ignore that. This is a genuine feeling. But now it's, how do we empower them? My daughter was being horribly bullied in middle school. In fact, she used to make herself sick so she wouldn't go to school. And when we found out what was going on, of course, her father wanted to go and intervene, and she said, no, please don't. They'll follow me home. They'll do more to me, because it's a gang on one. Things like kicking down the toilet door. She's about to go and do a play. They're trying to throw her down the toilet. I mean, just, intimidation left, right, and center. And she said, I'm not going to give in to them. And it ate her up. And it was years later, she was at a party where she met this ringleader. And the ringleader came to her and said, I'm so sorry for what I did to you, but I also have so much admiration for the fact that you never gave in to us. You stood your ground. And that empowered her so much for the rest of her life. But at the time, what she was going through and what we saw her going through, but we also had to honor the way she wanted to do it, and then just be there for her. Because she said, I have to take this on. If you do something, it's going to come back at me even worse. I have to take this on. So we had to be there, her support, and empower her so that she can go and face them. And it's really hard as a parent, because you don't want to see your child in pain. But, it's also part of that journey that in life, that I can't protect her for the rest of her life. And if she learns how to stand up to them now and strengthen now, this will be something she'll carry with her for the rest of her life. But it's a very, very hard thing for a parent to do.
It totally is, and it can be so individual as to how you handle it. Like you're saying so beautifully what happened with your daughter. Your daughter was very clear what she did and didn't want to do, and your child may be the same. Or the journey for this experience between the two of you may be that you may have to go to the school. It depends on what what the healing is meant to happen.
Yes.
It can be that you need to fill your child with self-love needs to come through. So whether you do, there's so many wonderful things, that there's lovely meditations and whatever you can
Yes.
do with your child. So all these things, so as you fill them up with self-love, self-esteem,
Yeah.
but you've got to go on the individual, the age of
Yeah.
the child, the gifts of the child, how that child expresses, this is what I want to do, this is not what I
Yes.
want to do. And again, like you're saying, the gift may be something that comes out later in life, but you give your child a solid base, and you honor what your child says, and you be strong for your child, and don't say the overreacting. Just listen and respect what your child says, because there may well be many things they're saying very clearly what they
Yeah.
do and do not want done. And as a parent, you desperately want to fly in there and stop it, but you have to honor what your child says.
Yes.
And possibly the bullying may be happening because you as a parent need to come into your power.
Yeah.
So it could be happening to your child, because actually what's the big meaning of it is that you're meant to stand up, and you're meant to, and so there can be many layers to what is happening. And it could well be that you have got to stand in your power and go to that school and make this happen. You've got to read.
Yeah, but actually, I had that case with my son, where I actually had a principal bullying my son. He was going after him for everything. It ended up being a mediation, and the mediator saying, "Look, your son has every right to react the way he does. This teacher has got it out for him. The only thing we can do, unfortunately, we can't fire the teacher. What we're going to have to do is move your son to another school, but he's not going to be moved to another school with any stigma." You know, and we're just going to give him another chance at another school. I still felt that was wrong. Why should he have to move to another school because of this adult who is bullying him and going after him very clearly, which they saw? But my son had to move to another school, and you know, that was a hard one to swallow, because the teacher didn't have any repercussions whatsoever.
And why would an adult be in that environment where they're teaching anyway? If they've got that ability, they shouldn't be there. Now, regarding bullying, I was bullied as a child, and I was bullied for my primary years. And so I understand completely what it means. But also my family were fear-based. So they were unable to do anything about it. So I would go home and say, and then in the end, because they weren't able to do anything, and in the end my mum was getting very upset, and anger came out just because she felt she couldn't do anything about it. So I actually stopped. But the bullying continued for the whole of my primary years. Now my self-esteem and self-confidence was very low, so I can see I was easy target for bullying. The bullying was a group in the school, and the school weren't active at bullying it then. Bullying wasn't even heard of. So I completely understand what it does to a child, and also how you need to recover as an adult, because you go out into the world with that. So I understand completely the dynamics of it, but I also understand the importance of a family that will listen, because they're not getting, their emotions aren't getting into it as well. So that's why I'm very clear at parents: do not take it on personally and get over whatever your emotions are. Stay grounded, because your child needs to be heard, and if your child cannot be heard, they will shut up, and that's when the concern really comes in, because they're still dealing with it, and you're going to have a child that slowly disappears and shuts down.
I
And
mean,
that
is then a domino effect, a spiral effect to so many other issues in life, you know, if they disappear.
Totally.
You know, that can lead to many things, none of them positive. You know, I remember at boarding school, my dad had died, and nobody believed me, and I was also asthmatic, so there was a lot of activities I couldn't do. And one day these girls just dragged me by the hair out into the garden, where they dug a hole, saying, "We're going to put you in the garden like a weed." And you know, the headmistress came out and just went nuts, because they stupidly dug the hole right outside her window. And I remember she sent me out of assembly one morning and had a damn good talk to everybody there. And she intervened, and you know, you don't see that too often, and it was a very different reaction to me after that. But it was a small private boarding school. But you know, the thing is that if you do see something wrong, even as another parent, if you're seeing, you know, some children being a little too manhandled, or spoken to negatively, you know, and there's a different, if you know, when it's harmful to a child. You know when there's something being said or done to a child by any parent or anywhere, and you feel powerless for the child. Where do you cross the line? Do you go say something to that parent? Do you go to the teacher at the school and say, look, I've witnessed this? You know, we want to step in for those children that are feeling powerless, but how do we do it?
You actually let go of your own fear and you do whatever feels right at the time. So it is the silence. We do not buy into the silence. You've got a child who already feels guilty because those around them are saying they're guilty.
Yeah.
You as the adult, you step in wherever you're meant to. So if the parent is closest, you do it with the parent, and if it's the teacher, then you go to the school. So that is irrelevant of if you witnessed it,
Yes.
you were meant to witness it, and you do something about it. That is what us as adults are meant to do, because our children rely on us to be their voices when they cannot be. And that is not whether you gave birth to them, but whether they're a child. They are still the world's children. You step in.
Yeah, again, we're not owners.
No.
They are not our property. We are custodians, and even if you gave birth to them and they're your blood, that still doesn't mean that you have a right to harm them in any way. You're there to bring out the best in them and give them the best you have. Now we see so often the way a person was brought up. And they hated the way they were brought up, you know, abusive parenting, this, that, etc. But that's all they know. And even though they may love the child and say, I'm going to do things differently, end up recycling that same thing. And it's a hard one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people, you know, at some point they may catch themselves and go, I'm inflicting this on my kid, what was inflicted on me. And then other times they just don't see it.
You have the absolute opportunity when you have a child, your childhood comes up. And that is why it's so uncomfortable. And that's why sometimes why adults push their children away, because it feels so uncomfortable. They're bringing their past up. It's bringing up the adult's past. You have, as an adult, have the chance to open your mouth and ask for help. And that's what you're meant to do. So you do not come with a booklet when you're a parent. You're not meant to, because you meant to come from the heart. But you ask for help, and you ask for help from the right people. And understand this, when it feels really uncomfortable, there is a healing coming up. When a healing comes up, it feels horrendous. But face it and see that whatever your child is doing that is pushing a button, try and let go of. It is not the child that is causing your uncomfortableness. The uncomfortableness is inside of you, and it's saying, open up, hear me, feel me. Inner child is coming up and saying, look at me, you can do this. Our children give us the absolute opportunity to heal and access our inner child and let go and forgive whatever happened in the past. But in doing that, you will face many fears, many emotions, many experiences will come up, past experiences. So this is the importance.
You can't suppress it down. You can't suppress it down, and you can't take it out on your child. It's got nothing to do with them. You have to deal with it.
Absolutely, but get help. This is why there are so many light workers out there, because a doctor would offer you medication, which would, if you go down that route, you may need to do it short term if you decide to, but ultimately it will not stop what you're going to be facing.
Band-aid.
So, you know, I offer my services. There are many people that offer services. Go to what you're drawn to, but know this work is so worth doing, because it will make you the parenting will be phenomenal, but also your life, your gain, your authentic self, rather than replicating your past, because you won't just be doing it with your parenting. You'll be doing it in the rest of your life. There will be restrictions in your life. There will be restrictions on the job that you do, on the friends that you have, because you'll see yourself a certain way. Regain your life, but don't do it on your own. When you really need help, you ask for it.
Right. Yes, because we don't have all the answers, and that's the reason why we do have people who have dedicated their lives to, you know, to the healing of the inner child, because we don't have all the answers. All we know that there is a problem, and it's not, you know, it's not the psychiatrist's couch, you know, it's all about your mother, you know, it is, and it's not about the drugs to band-aid. It has to come to the surface in order to release, and only when you actually truly understand, you know, always, as human beings, like to take something that's happened to us, and because we don't understand it, it grows and grows and grows and grows. And it could have been a simple thing that happened to us, but because it was never addressed, it grew out of
Yes.
proportion and
Yeah.
distortion. And
Yeah.
then when we've got somebody that can guide us back to the root of what really happened and let that go, we're letting all that other stuff go along with it. And it doesn't mean you're validating what happened to you.
No.
That was wrong, that caused
Mm.
pain. But what you're doing is releasing its hold on you, that now you are imposing upon someone else because, I don't know what it is in the human psyche where pain inflicts pain. You were hurt growing up, and yet you go and hurt someone else because it's all you know. And we always go and say, but if somebody went through that horrific pain, why would they then go and do it to their own child? And that's always a huge question mark, isn't it?
Absolutely. And like if you go into our minds and the patterns that we take on the patterns of those around us. So our caregivers, and there's a pivotal time is until we're, the first so many, 5, 6, 7 years. No, it's 5 or 6 years, isn't it? You take on the behaviors of others, and it's almost like it gets implanted as our own. So in that way, there are adults who go the complete opposite of what happened in their childhood. They will, if they had alcoholics, they won't drink. If they had
Right.
smokers, they won't smoke. Or there's ones that will just automatically go down exactly the same route as their parents because it's so ingrained within them.
Yeah.
And what you've got then is the mix of these massively gifted kids coming through who shine light on any darkness, and the darkness is anything that hasn't been released.
Right.
And so they're there shining their torch on us, going, heal this, heal this, heal this. That's what they're doing. So please, if you're feeling really strong, intense emotion, step back. And if you have to, step out of the room if your child has brought something up. And that's a simple thing you can start with. But understand, they are doing this so as you can be free. They're not trying
to punish you.
No, absolutely. And that's what it can... Totally.
Yeah.
If you've got someone that's pressing your buttons, which children do, they'll find the best thing.
They're very good at that, yes.
But they're saying, okay, heal this, heal this.
Yeah.
Why are you... You're not feeling so intense because of what the child's done. You're feeling so intense because you've got suppressed feelings and emotions from the past.
Yeah, my mum said to me, I raised my children the way I would like to have been raised, because we were all sent to boarding school very young. And, my kids were around me, and to this day, it's still hugs and kiss. I don't care how tall, how old they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was the same with their friends. Their friends in trouble, they came to our house. Hugs and kisses made them feel heard and nurtured, and that's who I am. And that's what I wanted growing up. And that's not necessarily anything I received, because my parents never received it themselves, so they didn't know how to give it. But then it's like, I didn't necessarily receive that, so how do I know how to give it? And I just had to follow my heart. I know what I wanted. And, for me, picking up a child and just hugging them to blah, 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 blah. Not only is the even as they're older, Mom, it's still, they love the hugs. It lets them know how much they're loved. And that acceptance and that absorption of love is loving you back. So love begets love, fear begets fear, hate begets hate. And so if we have stepped into fear, into hate, then we've got to understand, what are we feeding? Where is this coming from? And how do I release it? Because it's not nurturing anyone.
No, and I want everyone to understand that no matter what horrendous childhoods they have or whatever experiences they had, you heal it and it will become part of your life experience and wisdom, and it will have no hold on you. There is always a gift when you heal a big experience. There will be a gift beyond it, and you'll understand it, the other side of it. So it doesn't have to be a cross that you bear for the rest of your life. It can be something that adds to you as a person, as a human being, and as a parent. And that's what you can carry on for the rest of your life. You can lighten your load. You just need tools as to how to do it, and understanding that it's not the children that are causing it. The children are helping you heal.
Yeah. And also the wisdom of the children. I mean, my kids have said such profound things, and, now they're almost 30, 34 and 36, yet, they still have things to say and observe, because I've been in a position where I needed help and they've been there. And it's like, and I'm saying, but, I understand I'm the mother. I should be there for you. And they said, but you have been. it's now our turn to be there for you. You know, and
Absolutely.
it's, I mean, as that, mother that feels that you always must be there for your kid, it's hard to now go, okay, I can let them help me, because you still want to be mama,
Yeah.
And, but it's by letting them help you, you're honoring and respecting them and who they've become, and the fact that they have a desire and a wish to help you. You've actually raised them right.
Exactly, exactly. I've got an 8-year-old son that I've helped him. When I process, then if I'm crying and I'm
Mm-hmm.
processing, he may come into the room, he'll give me a hug
Mm-hmm.
and go again, and he talks to me, he says, oh, it's all right, you're processing, and he'll walk
Yeah.
away. So
Yeah.
he'll hug me, so he'll give me
Yeah.
that hug, but then he doesn't feel the need to
Right.
stay with me and squash it. He just
Right.
knows it's okay, it's okay.
Yes.
She's just do
Just
it, and he
letting you
can
know
feel
you're
it.
loved. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he'll let me get on with it, which is
Mm.
exactly what I need to do,
Right.
needed to do. So they are so wise.
I
They
know.
honestly are, and they understand. If you see children when they have a row or whatever together, and they'll say something, then they'll make up in 10 minutes. So they
Yes.
understand just to express, and then
Right.
they don't hold it against
No.
anybody. They just do it, carry on, and
Until
then
they
it's
get to
us.
teenage years, and then it
Yes,
seems
and
to
that's it.
change.
That's a bit different then.
Yeah, all of a sudden those hormones kick in, you go and look at them, and you go, you think The Exorcist is the head sitting down, and you're like, who are you? You're not this cute little child that I know. And it's,
No,
why is it that the teenage years and the hormones just suddenly change those personalities?
absolutely. Just hold on there and remember that they're still in there somewhere.
Yes. Come out.
And just hold the faith and pray, and they'll come out the other side.
Yes. If you can get through the teenage years, you can get through anything.
And as parents who, if you had restricted pasts, actually, if you allow your teens just to be the
Yeah.
grumpy teens, you're actually doing your job, because you're
Yes.
allowing them to be.
Yes.
So, or how are you for just acknowledging they need their space? They're
Yeah.
they're becoming zombie-like or whatever. But just let them
Yeah.
get on with it. I know they'll come through it.
Yes.
Just, isn't that great that they're not pretending?
Right. Yes. Yes. And we used to go and put on things like Queen, We Are the Champions, and all sing and dance and shout and things like that. And
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes join them.
Yes,
Just get in there
absolutely.
and join them and be silly. I mean, my kids loved
Yes.
me being silly,
Yeah.
and it's not like, mother being authority is getting out there and being utterly stupid and silly to the point that I'm embarrassing them. And, then you've, you've done it.
Absolutely. I've become younger with my child since happening,
Yes.
because you do all
Yes.
the stuff, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah, and
lighten
it's
up.
fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. Exactly. Yeah, I used to, if they started arguing, there was two things I did. One, when they were younger, if they were fighting with each other, I'd make them hug each other and kiss each other. And you can't fight while you're kissing. And they got to that stage of, ew, brother and sister, ew. But then they forgot what they were arguing about, right?
So it still worked.
Yeah, it still worked. And then the other one was that I start singing opera to them, and anything to shut me up. So sometimes we, don't step into the anger mode. It's
No.
shift the dial, and do something silly, or do something that takes them away from their moment and redirects
Absolutely.
them somewhere else. So sometimes we've just got to be said, you don't come with the all authority. Sometimes just redirect with something else, and they'll step outside of that. Because
Absolutely.
if you come into it angry, you can escalate it.
Totally. And sometimes we as adults can be the ones that load anger as well. We may feel uncomfortable around anger, so we
Yes.
actually inflame it even
Yeah.
more. So just stay completely relaxed and neutral, rather than seeing that's a good emotion, that's a bad emotion. Okay, just it is anger. It will go beyond it. Just stay grounded while they're
Yeah.
doing it, so as you don't go "Whoa," as well.
Yeah. And also there's that look. I mean, I'm very animated, and I get the eyes.
Yeah.
When the eyes stare, Mum's gone silent, and she has that look, and it's like, and then it's like, I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it a dozen times, and now I'm silent and I'm staring, and they know there's going to be action now if you don't do. And they get to know those warning signs. Oh, I've pushed too far. I've pushed too far.
Absolutely.
And then they learn those boundaries, and they need to know what those boundaries are. It's
Yeah.
push. I always said to my kids, know where your boundaries are. And if you are willing to go across that boundary, also be willing to pay the price. And when I got a phone call from the hospital saying my son had broken his femur, it's because he went and swung on a swing. And while he was up there, he goes, I don't feel comfortable doing this, and was about to get off. And
Oh, wow.
somebody said, oh, my girlfriend can do it. Are you a sissy? And so pride and ego got in the way.
Yeah.
He didn't have the right footing, ended up coming down this embankment. When he woke up in the ravine, his leg was behind him, snapped in half.
Wow.
Right. And he said, if I'd listened to my instincts, and I said, what a great lesson.
Totally.
And this is a lesson you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And thank God you didn't break your neck, just broke your leg, But that's the thing, is this, that we need to help them understand what that boundary is when that voice says don't, right?
Yeah,
Don't do
absolutely. Yeah. If you talk about when we're in spirit, like you didn't need these tools. This is human tools, isn't
Right,
it? To have
yes.
healthy boundaries around,
Yes.
because everything was safe and love, wasn't there?
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
no. So the only way our children are going to go out with healthy boundaries is if we actually demonstrate them to them. So no is a small word, but very powerful.
Yes.
I'm aware the natural parenting movement, there became a big movement of not saying no to a child. And I'm not, the overuse is not healthy as well, because
Right.
it almost dumbs the word down. But there was big movement of using every other word except no. So it almost became a long sentence of, and it became too complicated.
You're right, yeah.
So it's a small word, but it's very powerful. And we use no with our child. They go out into that world and say no to the things around them, because no matter how we parent, they are going out into a world where there are polarities.
Right,
they
exactly.
need to understand them. So them to say no internally and externally, the only way they do it is because we show them in the home.
Right.
No.
And I think it's also a lot to do with tone. No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I love it. Well done.
And there is a force behind each one of those. And if they get the real one, it's okay. When they learn, it's definitely a no. Or they don't you dare. And it's learning, understanding the tone behind something has just as much impact as the word.
Yeah, absolutely. Words have power, but it's only what you give them as well.
Yes.
So it's the dynamics of all those, and like you said, the stare as well. But
yes.
we give these children tools. So these gifted children still have those things to learn from us, and we have to learn how to do them as well. Healthy boundaries.
Yes.
There's a big guilt parenting and things can get. You've got parents who feel, and so that's a massive thing in itself. But they say no. You don't need to go, round the house, 100 times rather than say the word. Just no. Because when something happens in front of your child, you want them to say no rather than go round and round and round and round with a situation that could get escalate and get dangerous. No.
And don't go because I said so, because that's not a reason. If it's like, why not, which a kid is always going to give you, give an explanation that they can understand as to why not. Because 9 times out of 10, okay, it's reasonable. It's reasonable.
Totally.
Why not? Why not at that time? But if it's just a why not, now you're doing a power struggle.
Totally.
Right? And then they're going to challenge you on that, because that's what they're here to do, is challenge.
Absolutely. And give them understanding of why.
Yes.
And so they see it from your perspective.
Exactly. Respect. Yeah.
And they see it from your perspective, and then you can listen from theirs.
Right.
So again, it's another chance for conversation beyond it, but initially the no still happens.
And I think what we do in the home front with these tools, these boundaries, this love, when they get into the school system, which is radically different, and they've got the dynamics of the teachers, of the system, because the system hasn't changed enough yet. It is slow in the process, but it hasn't changed enough yet. And then, there's all the kids they're dealing with, homework, and then sports or this or that. Suddenly they're thrown in from carefreeness into regimental. And a lot of that regimental half the time won't make sense, but it is what it is. I think it's then helping them to be able to get through things without being overwhelmed, of how to prioritize their time, their effort, or if there's something they're stuck on, it's perfectly all right to say how, or, what I need help here. But that's where a little structure is needed in order to get through it. So always to be rewarded with their own carefree time. Because otherwise they start feeling trapped, don't they?
Absolutely, but also a home life where they can talk and that'll be heard. So that's so if they've had a day at school, Exactly. So if they've had a day at school where they haven't been heard, where
Yeah.
they've had to conform, that they come home, if they can talk to you and then have that fun,
Yes.
safe, expansive, um, nurturing environment, then they can offload it. But
Yes.
nature as well is fantastic for those kind of
Yeah.
things. But you give them the remedy to whatever they're dealing with at school
Hmm.
by allowing them to be themselves and giving them the environment they deserve, but also you deserve. It's your home
Right.
as well.
And don't make things like, you haven't done your homework punishment. Don't make things a punishment. There
No.
can be consequences, right?
Yes.
But not a punishment. I'm sorry, there is no TV until X, Y, and Z is done,
Yeah.
right? Or you haven't cleaned your room. So the consequence is you can't go and do this. And that's just consequences we have to face in life. They get to learn, in order to be able to go and do this, I have to first do that. And that's just something we, as human beings, we always have to know that there's things that have to get done. It can't all just be about fun and games and play. So if they understand the consequences to things and the structure, which is important in life, I think then they can bring that structure into their beautiful creative wisdom and actually be able to build on that creativity in a way that allows them to actually see growth rather than just living in the dream of it or the fantasy of it. They've learned some good
Absolutely.
structural tools and actually how to build the vision.
Totally. And you having that respectful relationship with them means they've got
Mm.
those lovely stems in their brains. You
Hmm.
give them options. They've got all that there. So they understand that their understanding will be far more expansive, that this is what I need to do at school. This is what I need to do with the homework, whatever. But then I've got this time for me. So
Yes.
they've got those tools already implanted in their brain, which will see them through the rest of their lives. They understand this is where I function this way, but then I understand I rebalance that with creativity in another area.
Yeah.
So they'll understand that they've got so much more inside because they're not shut off. They can be more creative with how they think about things,
Right.
they can create a way of handling things differently. They have far more tools inside
Yes.
them because of the structure, what you give them at home.
And I introduced you to Duati, who teaches yoga and meditation to kids, which I think is brilliant. And I think it's
Yes.
even a good idea in the morning before they go off to school, breathing exercises or a quick little yoga or a little meditation, 5 minutes or something, to get them
Yes.
centered, to get them ready. So when they do go to school, they don't feel bombarded, even learning some EFT, emotional freedom technique
Yeah.
that they can do anywhere, and then go to the bathroom and do it and just kind of release things so that pressure doesn't build up through the day. It's like letting off a little pressure steams through the day so nothing builds up, and then they're able to cope with things a lot better. So breathing techniques, EFT techniques, a few minute meditations, even if they are learn the yoga or anything, or not sports that are all about activity but also about peace and quiet. The earlier we teach these kids, the more we're actually teaching them lifelong skills to any of the issues that they have to face.
Absolutely, and even if they're so young, you can have a meditation CD going on in the
Yeah.
background. You can have
Yeah.
calming music, so they don't necessarily engage in that they understand what they're doing, but they'll feel it, and so they're in
Right.
that environment. So those kind of things you can have playing in. I have things playing in the background. So my son
Hmm.
is, you can have the mantras, whatever going on. So as he he can be playing, and it'll just be around him.
Right.
So all these things you can give in. I trained in Big Dog Little Dog, which is parent and child yoga. And that's
Mm.
something that if you've got a relationship that's changing and you're not quite sure how to move on, this is where you work, that the parent and child works together. So these are the kind of things that you can use for that as well. So supporting the relationship you've got as it changes. So there's so many tools that can have these healing elements
Yes.
to them, but give so many tools.
I mean, it's the doing it together, the parent and child doing it together. And then they'll get to a stage where they want to go off and do it on their own or with friends, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
But you've already
Yeah.
taught them that. There
Yeah.
was a wonderful veteran I interviewed who kept going back to war. And he was an adrenaline junkie. He was so,
Yeah.
used to being on all the time
Yeah.
that when he came back, he didn't know how to switch off. And somebody
Mm.
got him to go to yoga. And then he found that was his outlet. Now he's created Vet Yoga, which is for veterans and their families and it's free. And
Fantastic.
so the veterans go to learn how to unwind, but they're doing it with their families. So
Yeah.
everybody's getting on that same lovely vibration, and it's
Yeah.
helping people then reconnect and come back into a succinctness, although it be a new paradigm. And I think this is so important. We look at these things and go, yeah, yoga, yeah, meditation, and nobody really, until they get into it, really understands the empowerment of it and the wonderful domino effect, positive domino effect it has on all aspects of your life. So even if it's you've never done it before, you know, maybe yoga, maybe meditation, it doesn't matter. Just start doing it and do it as a family, and the whole family will again get in sync with each other, won't they? Dad coming home from a stressful day, mum has had a stressful day, the kids have had a stressful day. How about before dinner or before you go to bed at night, 5 or 10 minute meditation where everybody can just unwind together?
Yeah, absolutely. There's singing bowls, there's all sorts, but anything that
Yeah,
just works on
the
the
gongs,
energy.
the gongs,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
totally. So all these things are so simple, and that's the adult brain that will do. Oh,
yes,
this won't work because
yeah,
But the child will embrace it
oh
like
yeah,
that, and so they grow up around that. That's a marvelous tool to go out in the world
yes,
with, because again, it honors their sensitivity, it honors their
yes.
energetic body. It helps them, and so it helps keep that energetic body clear, so it's their own, and that if they do happen to pick up energy from others, they can clear it easily with these tools that you're
Yes.
sending them into the world with.
Right. And, and it does come to the bullying, is all
Yes,
they need to do is step into, that breathing, that EFT, the few moments of meditation, and they are realizing, it's like the four agreements of Don Rose, speak your word with integrity.
absolutely. I read
Two,
that.
it's
Yes,
brilliant. Do not assume, ask, because you don't know where it's coming from. Don't take things personally, because if somebody's attacking you, they're attacking you from their pain. They're just trying to dump it on you. And do your best measured by you, not somebody else's expectation of you. Four beautiful, simple codes of life that if we choose to
absolutely.
take them on, help us get through life. Because I think one of the biggest problems today, stress is the number one killer,
Yes,
because it brings on all the other disease, right?
yes, yeah,
But one of the reasons why stress is around is the fact that we do not know how to let things go or not take things on. And
absolutely.
we're busy absorbing all the crap around us, and it's not even ours. And then we've got our own as well. And the next thing you know, we're steep in doo-doo, and we don't know how to get out of it.
Exactly. And also, if people could have the understanding that they've got an energetic body as well,
Yes.
so that so you can pick up from other people the bullying,
Yes.
when somebody comes close to you and says negative things, you'll feel your energetic body can shrink, because you're
Yeah.
desperately trying to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then your body changes like this. Whereas if you understand what's happening, you can make your energetic body strong. You can also protect your energetic body,
Right.
and you stand more in your power. Now, the bully can actually, if they're even not aware, they would still feel, their energy would still feel they're taking you down.
Yeah.
So, you can work on somebody with this level energetically before you even speak. You can,
Yes.
the posture, how you stand, but understand that you don't take on what's coming at you from others, and how to protect and honor your energetic body.
Right.
That makes a massive difference with the energy of others.
Mm. Scientifically now, they're beginning to actually understand what spirituality is, and the
Yes.
understanding that the quantum energy that you live in spiritual energy is a vibration of frequency that is measured at a certain level, and that when you're vibrating on that frequency, the higher it is, the more you are actually in a state of love and harmony, and less you are in friction. And
Yeah.
they're realizing that spirituality isn't all about kumbaya or cults or
Mm-hmm.
witchcraft. It
Yeah.
is about our beautiful divine positive energy that we choose to live
Yes.
in, and
Yeah.
that by vibrating on that is what we're resonating out, and that it actually serves our planet and everybody on it, these positive
Yes.
vibrations. And so
Yes.
our children know this instinctually. Our parents,
Yes.
the parents are still having a hard time getting to it. But if we
Yes.
just simply look at our children and understand they're already resonating on that frequency, they're
Yes.
already in spirit. And if we
Yes.
can see who they are and what they are because of it, and learn to change our channels and match
Totally.
theirs, we will actually realize we can all live in a lot more harmony and less stress. than we put ourselves in.
Absolutely. It is for us to respect that they are exactly, I am light. That's exactly
Yes,
what they are. They're light. Yeah. And
yes,
so we're the bridge to the outside world, and how we support them is how they then go out into the world. But it's about honoring who they are, not trying to get to change them to change to the world and the
right.
frequency of the world that it is.
Yes,
It is for them to go out into the world as they are and
yes.
beam that light. You know, the more that go out there beaming that light, the
And you know,
stronger it
if somebody
becomes.
comes to you and says, yeah, but that's not the real world. I'm sorry, the world that you can please conceive as a real world is a past world. You know, today in business, in all industries, in further education, they are encouraging people to step into this vibrational consciousness. The way we're
Absolutely.
doing business with each other now is about building relationships, is being respectful, being inspirational. It's not about the bottom line. It's about investing in the people, because the people will make your profit. It's not about profit at the expense of the people. We are
No.
seeing that shift in business. We're seeing that shift in certain governments. We're seeing that
Yeah.
shift in the way we treat each other. And it's going back to actually understanding good vibration meets good vibration, which now creates a beautiful vibrational symphony. And there isn't any friction going on. The world is changing. So if you're saying, well, that's not the real world, you're not preparing your child for a world of yesterday. You're preparing them for a child of tomorrow, the world of tomorrow. And that is resonating at that positive vibration.
Absolutely. And the person saying that it's an illusion, they're still
Yeah.
buying into the past. So
Yes.
they believe in that illusion, because also the illusion keeps them not safe, but
Yeah.
it's like there's nothing that makes them feel uncomfortable. I know this world, I can control this world because I know what's going to happen. So that's what the illusionary person is saying. But the truth is, you let go of those
Yeah.
illusions, and the freedom is there. You know,
Yeah.
it is beautiful. And to feel that harmony
Mm-hmm.
around somebody who's got that light beaming is absolutely beautiful. Your
Yes.
heart, you can feel it. Your heart feels it when you're
Yes.
around somebody that beams.
Yeah.
You feel it
Everything about you is uplifted. And the thing is,
totally.
you know, we always say about inspiration for invitation. You know, when you're around people
Yeah,
that inspire you, it invites you to step up. It invites
totally.
you to believe you can be more. We know we're looking at such gifted children today. And, you know, one of the reasons I love these talent shows is that there isn't an age barrier, you know,
No.
from young to old. All alike. You know, you've got people who are much older, who've never had a chance in their life because, you know, everybody told them to get a real job and
Mm.
responsibility, and all of a sudden, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80, they discover their talent, and or
Yes.
they share it with the world. And then you've got a child who's fearless, who hasn't had
Yes.
those barriers yet, and they just get out
Yeah.
there and they do. I mean, look who won America's Got Talent. Was it last year or the year before? The with her Muppets. I know it's called Ventriloquist. And I think she was 12 or 13. And she's brilliant. And the reason she got these little stuffed creatures was to speak a voice that she didn't feel she herself had.
Yeah.
And her little creatures became her
Mm.
voice, and they
Mm.
won her the show. And each week that she came out, the confidence that she stepped into, and the skill of her just rose and rose and rose, because the energy was put on her in belief. I hear you, I believe
Absolutely.
in you. And then that
Yeah.
belief allowed her to grow. And it's like, look what grows when we choose to feed it positive energy. What would happen if we actually did that to our children?
Exactly. And it's the good for all. So
Yes.
that one person allowing that, you know, that one
Yeah.
child to grow, look what it does for everybody else. It
Yes.
is, and see that as an example.
Yeah.
This is what the world will become. So this is the importance of nurturing our children, of supporting our children, of giving them healthy boundaries, is so as they do just that.
Right.
And then they join in this world and they shine light on us all. The whole thing elevates.
Right. And we have a much better world to look forward to, because, you
Absolutely.
know, really we're looking at the world right now and going, where did we go wrong? Well, we
Yeah.
became far too much of the I and not the we, which is very
Yes.
important that we step into our I as an individual. What can I be that I can bring to the we, the collective? Because
Yeah.
it's not about you becoming a drone. It's about you becoming abundant to bring to the we of the world. the us, how are we going to work together? But we have to know what our I is first. What is my gift? What is my contribution? Let me rise up in my own energy so I can be bringing something that is of service to community. And I think children naturally get that. As you say, they congregate towards one another, they help one another. They don't see black, white, pink or yellow, they just see another vibrational energy, and they come together in play and helping each other. We're seeing this with the animal kingdom of animals, you know, nurturing each other of different species, because
absolutely.
they're vibrationally seeing each other at frequency, not on the outer shell. So if we're seeing any children that are racist or judgmental, it is not coming from the child. It is coming from the adults that are teaching the children. So we have to be extremely mindful of what we impose on our kids.
Absolutely. And the way to do that, like everything, to go out into the world and for us to do what we need to do, we need to know who we are. Our child knows the I am. They know exactly who they are. We need to remember. Then we can go out in the world and we'll do our mission. We will follow our calling. We'll be confident. We need to find out who we are. Our children already know, and they can support us and encouraging us on the same journey of finding out rediscovering who we are. Because we came in that same way. We knew. And
we just lost our way.
Exactly. But they can help us, and they will. By them being this beautiful light, they remind us every single day, and they'll encourage us. Who are you? Who are you, Mum? Who are you, Dad?
Yeah. And they're going to do the same to their teachers and the system.
Absolutely.
We're seeing the system change because the kids are demanding the change. They are brighter than what they're being taught. Right? They are more adaptable, they're more adoptable, they're more creative, and there is no box in their language. So they see things beyond what the structure of the little box that's being taught. So, you know, teachers that are smart enough are going, hell with the box. What can I learn from this child? And realize that they've jumped on the bus of creativity. You're driving it. You know, don't restrict where you go. Let them show you where to go, but just all you're there is to help them with the structure, with the building blocks, with the blueprinting of their ideas, so that they know how to build it, because that's what we're here for. It's not to impose knowledge on them, it's to give them knowledge that they in their wisdom can use in order to create.
Absolutely, and the wisdom that they're meant to learn from us as well. So whatever sparks them, you as a parent, if school can't do it, you fill it in and you make sure you do. So if they're absolutely enthralled with whatever it may be, you make sure you help them by giving them the information and the tools and the books around them, so as they can fully explore it at home if they cannot do it at school.
Right. So encourage them to read and explore through books. Encourage them to have a conversation about the book they've read. Even if the shows that you watch them together, you know, have a conversation about it. You know, I think one of the things that's missing so much in parenting is this word conversation. We must open up to and it's not dictation of how your children should say, oh, you shouldn't say this or you shouldn't do that. It's like, let them speak. And it's, why have you said this? Why have you said that? Let them explain what their understanding is. And then if their understanding is not quite on track, that's where you step in to help them understand what it is they're speaking about. It's about that back and forth conversation. And if we don't have that conversation with our children, we're denying them an art that will take them through their lives productively. That conversation is essential. If we don't give them that conversation, they're tweeting because they don't know how to have a conversation.
But also there's a lot of parents out there that would have seen questioning as confrontational, and that's why they're shutting it down. If they weren't allowed to speak when they were children, then they would see it as the child giving them lip, when it's not at all. They're asking a question. So again, if you can work on yourself, if it's being lip, then you know, and then see the questioning as it's fantastic. It's a mind that's expanding and growing and wants to know more. And well, why are you doing it that way, Dad? Or why are you doing it that way, Mum? Or why did you say that? And just see it as they're inquiring, and just learn to diffuse yourself about that one. Because again, it is a fantastic tool to go out in there, and the brain then with that questions in it, to go out in the world with that brain that questions things, will not take on things that are not right. Because they will question it and say, no, actually, although that may be a system, I don't believe in it.
Right.
When they're adults, they'll go out, they want to change things, they want to change rules, they want to change policies, they want to change whatever, because that does not feel right to me.
Yes. And you haven't shut that voice down, you've allowed that voice. And the thing is, you've got to understand, even if you disagree with them, it's conversation, it's not an argument. Teach them how to speak to someone who doesn't see it their way, how you can have a debate, a conversation, and you're maybe not in agreement, but not overstep that line of now you're wrong and I'm right. Because that is also, I think, a huge lesson that we can teach our kids right from the word go. That's your point of view. This is my point of view. We're not meeting. So let's agree to disagree. Because otherwise it can get to a point of a hate thing and, you know, all of that.
Absolutely, and not filling the gap. When you ask a child question, I've got a son that really likes to think. So when you ask him a question, he thinks about it. He really thinks. And sometimes when he's out in shops or whatever, people don't quite understand. Well, they'll ask him something and he takes time to answer and they'll try and fill in. It's not that at all. He's taking it seriously.
Yes.
So whatever he's been asked, he likes to think and then he will answer. So again, it's that fixing thing. Don't try and jump in with a child. So if you've got a child that is a thinker, let them think on it and come back with the answer. You don't need to fill it in.
Right. And, you know, if you've got a thinker, just say, you know what, he's thinking about it. He'll get back to you in a moment. Let them know that's his process.
Exactly.
So they're not jumping in, right? And this the whole thing about if you speak to a child, they've got to respond straight away. No, they've got to digest what you said. They've got to chew it over so they can come over with their own thing. If it's a demanding, answer me, child, you know, and all of a sudden you shut them down because they don't feel invited anymore. Right.
And as adults, we're caught in the time. So the vortex of there's not enough time, whereas a child just sees time as exactly, it's irrelevant. But we've got to get.
They're not in past the moment before then, they're now.
But we've got to get tea on. We've got to do whatever. So we're, you know, as the adult, you're in that. Whereas a child, you know, it's more expansive and allowing, isn't it? So it's again meeting of those understandings of.
And then, you know, to close off, what I want to do is talk about, we will talk about what your programming is and everything in the moment, but competitiveness. You know, you've got the sports parent who's always pushing their kid to be competitive. You know what? Pushing your kid to be the best they can be within the parameters of who and what they are, and they're doing something because they love it. You know, did you give it your all? Yeah, I did, Dad. Today I gave it my all. And maybe my all wasn't as good as last time or won't be as good as next time, but I gave it my all. But to push a child and then judge them, you didn't give it your all, or you let us down, or you let the team down, and belittle them and make them small, you know, is not the way to go about it. Because we want them to step into something they love doing because they love being a part of it. The moment it is to please or appease the parent, and not themselves, now you've got that divide and that expectation on that child, and they're going to hate it. How many kids have gone on to get scholarships and then drop right out because they always hated it or didn't like it anymore because they were pressurized into doing it? And it's not something they wanted to do. So we have to be very mindful as parents, don't we, on how far we push, and this competitiveness that we have as parents is, my kid is doing this, my kid's doing that. Is it what the kid really wants to do?
It's more to do with what the parent lacks.
Yes.
So if the child, rather than the child will have many gifts and many talents. They won't be in all areas. So just honor the talents they have got and let them grow in those and let go of the others. But there is a feeling of lack of in the parent to be pushing the child. The parent is trying to live through the child, and so making the child like a sparkly jewel. Everything's wonderful. Yeah. A possession rather than a human. And that's.
Yeah, it's not good for your child. And also, you know, your child may love this year. I want to be a violinist this year, and they're going to do violin lessons. Next year, I want to do the piano, or I want to do art. And you go, oh boy. And you know what? It doesn't matter. They're in exploratory, and they're discovering things they like. And nothing is wasted. Everything they learn is something that they're going to take with them in their repertoire of life. But they're in discovery of what speaks to them. And there'll be something along the line, you go, oh, I really love this. And then they'll give it their all. But if we don't allow them to explore their options, how are they ever going to truly know what they really are meant to become, or what really their purpose is, right? Because, you know, I told you you're going to do this. With my kids, it was, they tried everything. You know, and it's and if they didn't like it, that's fine. then they can go on to something else. But they were in for a season, they were in for a season. You're going to give it the season to see how you like it. At the end of that season, if you don't want to go back, fine, you don't go back, we go on to something else. But it's not just like first day I don't like it, because you don't know, you haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
Take a whole season at it, come back at the end of it, and there's always something from that you can take with you on to the next. But we mustn't kind of dictate to our kids, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Introduce them to it, but let them decide where they want to go from here. Tomorrow it's a fireman, next day it's a spaceman, another day it's something else. If we don't let them explore those options, how are they going to understand the beauty of exploration if we keep putting a stop to it?
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful gift. And if you don't, you end up with an adult that stays in a job, stuck in a job, and miserable for the rest of their lives, because they've been shut down. So they were shut down in their exploring. Exploring is a natural thing. A child, when they're young, will get yogurt and sprawl it all over the table. They're exploring. So it's all relative, isn't it? As they get older, they're exploring with bigger tools. They're exploring with the violin. They're exploring with that, but they're still exploring, and they're learning and growing. And growing means you may grow out of something, but you grow into something else. So let them grow, and they will be adaptable adults. What a wonderful thing to be adaptable. So because life will still happen, when something happens, they'll know how to adapt. Because they've got all these tools in their kit,
and they're not afraid to try something new.
No, and then it's okay to stop something as well, rather than feel guilty of, I must keep going with this job or this relationship because I've got to see it through to the end. So, rather than the stoic person, I'm just going to carry on, they'll be the person that thinks, okay, this doesn't feel right, I'm going to let this go and I'm going to move on to something else.
Right. So really what we want is that children, who they are at home, and that freedom and that love and that exploration, we want them to feel comfortable enough to bring it to their school. And obviously their school is going to be a bit more regimented and structured, but not to lose themselves in the school's expectation, but always to have themselves with themselves wherever they go. And that's the thing of the parent, is to make sure that your child knows that they are good enough, they are loved enough, that they are wonderful enough in who and whatever they are. And that even if a teacher gives them a C or an F, that's okay, that's not their strength. They may get an A or something on something else that is their strength, and that not to feel inadequate because of it, but to love and discover who they are and be all that they are with love and trust. That's really what we're here to do, isn't it? And because they're always going to be in a system somewhere, whether it's work or whether it's school or whether it's somewhere else, that they're going to be forced to adapt. But it's not losing themselves. It's always being able to take themselves so that they can always bring that to whatever system they're going to. So home is the first place. Don't send your kids to school just for all of the education. The education of life and love and vibration and communication and trust is in the home.
Absolutely. You've said it beautifully. The home it's like the bird's nest, isn't it? It's the nest they come back to, and then they fly out into the world. So this home is where they are honored and respected and loved for who they are. There's nothing better to take them out and send them out into the world with. So and be strong with being authentic with that as well. If your neighbors, your friends, your family do things differently, so what? This family and this home, you're the caretaker of this being for as long as they're in this environment with you, and just honor their individuality and your own as well.
Right. What I would do is love to have you back with Dewati and actually kind of talk about divorce in the family, or tragedy or something else in the family, how to cope with it, how to again utilize all these meditations and everything else, because we've covered a lot today, but just scratched the surface. So I'd love to have the two of you back on a round table and take this conversation even further.
I would love to, yes.
Excellent. So we're going to arrange that. Look forward to that, folks. And you'll see that on the Positive Living Vibrations coming up somewhere maybe towards the end of September. In the meantime, my darling, would you tell everybody how people can get hold of you and what you have to offer?
Okay, my website is www.sallysaint.co.uk. On there is my email address. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook, but everything is on there. I do conscious parenting sessions, which is for parents who want support in parenting from the heart, but also individuals who want help in healing their inner child. So I do the twofold. This brings together all my healing, my qualifications, the work I've done before, but also my life experience and my parenting with my child. So it's a culmination of that, and I support people on their journeys, authentic journeys, and journeys that are the ones for their child and for themselves. So please contact me on my email, and on the website, my email and everything is on there. I also do healing art as well, but all my work is energy-based, healing-based. So, and thank you so much for having me on this show, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, my pleasure. As I said, you've got to come back. So it's sallysaint.co.uk.
That's correct.
Excellent. And definitely have you back here with Dawati, who I've had on a few times, another local Brit. So you two have to meet anyway.
Fantastic.
And to understand that the way we have brought our kids up in the past, the way it has been is no longer. It's out of date. If we have a computer that's not running, we get a new one. If our car has become obsolete, we get a new one, because things change, and we've got to understand we change too. And just because it has been doesn't mean it still should be. And we have to embrace this new energy. Our kids have already embraced this new energy paradigm. They're already living in it. And so we need to rise up and match that energy and teach them and love them from there, because they are the future leaders in the world. And so we don't want to be their problem. We want to be, their guardians. And so it's imperative that we understand now and future children, because they are sent here to kind of clean up a lot of the stuff that we've done wrong. And so it's they're showing us the way, folks. So forget about authority, or I'm older than you, or I'm wiser. Yeah, there's things that they don't know. That's where the partnership comes in. But if we listen to their purity and their rarity in that beautiful divine energy, there's so much for us to learn. And that's what makes it so beautiful. So,
and it's a wonderful journey as well. It really is.
And I don't care how old your kids are. As I said, mine are in their 30s. They're still my babies. And they always will be. But I have such admiration for them as adults, and seeing where they're going, what their calling is, and how they're driven, because they're all driven from that love. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And the consciousness is changing. Thank God. It's changing around the world, and it's going to have the volume turned up on it quite exponentially over the next few years. And so we have to step into this energy paradigm, otherwise we're going to get left behind. So
absolutely, and we have to support each other as well in doing this.
Yes, most certainly. It is back to what I call the village collaboration. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody is important. It doesn't matter what your role is, and the village is only as strong as everybody that participates in it. And and so we've got to understand this isolation that we put ourselves in is put too much stress and pressure on us raising our children, and we're raising our children from woundedness. And so we need to heal ourselves, and we need to raise our children back as that global village, and understand the power of that beautiful flowing energy that runs between us all. So next show. A lot more of that on the next show, so don't forget to tune in, folks. And thank you, Sally, for being here today.
Many blessings. Thank you.
Until next time, folks, remember, it is about us. It doesn't matter. Don't take any guilt or burden of what you've been carrying with you, but please take responsibility in releasing it, and then tap into those beautiful children's energy and be their guardians, but let them teach you, because it is a collaboration. So until next time, folks, bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.